You could be talking about thousands of dollars for the price of a single marble.
Thing is that they were made as toys.
Are they a piece of art? Are they a child's toy? Somewhere's in between.
This is what we call used a lot.
Every marble has a story.
Oh yeah. Butterscotch is an Indian. Every one of them somebody loved, played with.
Marble shows are the most important element in the hobby.
When we go to the marble shows, it's like family reunion.
People are like, what are you doing? And I'm like, searching out marbles.
We're gonna have lots of good friends, lots of good conversation, and lots of marbles.
At least 23 marble factories in this country. Where are they all now?
They had no idea that 100 years later there'd be people out collecting them.
It's like walking back through a doorway 100 years.
Superman.
Blue Galaxy.
Popeye.
Christmas tree.
Guinea,
Submarine.
The Silver Surfer.
a Gilcock's flag, that's a nice name.
If you can take a marble and look at it and it makes you happy, then that's the marble to have.
It's constantly a hunt and a surprise and a treasure.
How can somebody not fall in love with something as beautiful as this?
I wouldn't trade these marbles for all the money in the world.
Hello and welcome to ATN World News. I'm Leah, and it's great to be with you, the listeners and the viewers all around the world. Today we have a special guest. His name is Jeremy Maupin, and he is a producer and film director. And he is doing an exciting new documentary film called For the Love of Marbles. It's a documentary film about the history, people, and the love of marbles. And in this program, we're going to be explaining, or Jeremy will be explaining, why this is so important. Good afternoon, Jeremy.
Good afternoon, Leah. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's awesome to have you on. And people, I'm going to give my little plug here before Jeremy starts explaining about the love for the love of marbles, the documentary film. We both believe, and many people believe, that during these times, trying times we're going through, that there needs to be a lovely diversion on certain things. And glass art is amazing to me. This is from my personal view. Everybody has their own view. But glass art is amazing to me. And back in the day, they made so many incredible just works of art. The masters over in Germany, glass art makers that started in the late 1800s, to the marble machine makers and master makers here in the USA and over in England. I mean, you know, if you looked at them, they're not your average marble. Like, I think when you say marble, people think, you know, the toy marbles in games that are just all one color or a plain opaque with just lines on them and no creative art. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the high standard that was set by creative people that had great skills and put it into glass art. If you look into it, if you just look up marbles and start looking at the different decades of them, you can see this. And it's been helping a lot of people, you know, with therapy. So I've said my little thing here that I wanted to thank Jeremy for waiting. And Jeremy, I'm going to hand this over to you now. And please tell us what you're doing with this For the Love of Marbles.
Oh, well, thank you very much, Leah. I really appreciate it. Yeah, For the Love of Marbles. It's a documentary film about everything marbles. From, like you were talking about, the history, the art, the people, and of course, the wonderful, wonderful display of marbles that have been created for a very long time by glass artists since, like you said, since the early 1800s. And this really comes back to the title, For the Love. And what I've discovered in my journey is that not just collecting is fun, not just pursuing the hunt is fun. And then you get into the people and see the enthusiasm and love that these people have for this art is incredible. So when I came up with the title, there was only one word that kept coming to mind, and it was the love. And I know that's what I have when I collect marbles, and that's what I started to see all around me from all the other people, how marbles touch their lives, and I knew that was the perfect title. what we're doing is we're creating a documentary film, and I believe it's the first of its kind. I don't know any other documentary film on this hobby that I know of. There might have been small clips that were made, or there's informational pieces on YouTube and whatnot, but this is the first full-length documentary film that I know of, and I wanted to dedicate that time to this hobby and to the people, because what I have found as I went down the rabbit hole, when I first thought that marbles were so simple in one respect, I discovered there was an entire universe opening up for me as I went further and further into this world. And it was a world that I thought, I can't just have this just for myself. I want to share it with the entire world, not just marble collectors, but anyone who's interested in beautiful art, anyone who's interested in fun and good entertainment. I really believe this is going to touch a lot of people and open up their eyes into this art form in more ways than one than they ever thought possible.
I agree with you, Jeremy. You know, good-hearted people want to bring joy to other people. That's a mission that they have. Gee, I wish I could give you some joy through some of these trying times. And about a year ago, I'll give a little personal testimony here. You know, about a year ago, I guess people who know me personally know that I deal with some chronic pain, and it was really just getting out there. And I know this may sound sappy to some, but this is my life. I literally prayed about it. I said, what can I do? What can I have as a hobby that's really going to make me dwell on lovely things? And so I literally heard audibly in my head, marbles. And when I looked them up, you know, and I always liked them when I was a kid. I know kids played with them. I kind of looked at them incredibly thinking like, oh, these blow my mind. You know, when I was looking at all the different incredible aspects of it, the beauty. And I want to tell you that it is so vastly complex. The marble ID system and collecting, and there are several groups on Facebook that are marble IDing or trying to help people ID. It is very complex. It's not all that simple in trying to collect them. This is something that can keep a mind occupied on a lovely, beautiful art. Now, mostly it's all glass, but there was some that in the beginning were made with clay. There's some today made with crockery, they call it, different things, but mostly glass. And you talk about something complex to study. You can go on Google and look up Marble ID, and there'll be a few websites that the complexity, you just look at it, you just say, this is incredible. And so, like I said, it's very, as Jeremy said, entertaining, but it's very beautiful. So, Jeremy, let me go ahead and throw another question out at you.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I won't make a question. Maybe I'll make a statement here and ask you about it. When I talked to you on the phone, you told me this fascinating story. Jeremy said he was just whizzing by a highway somewhere in Nebraska and saw a sign that said Marble Museum, and he drove on by and he goes, wait a minute, did that say Marble Museum? And he said he went back and he followed the route, and he found there a gentleman who went in, I don't know if it was the 50s or 60s, and went to flea markets in Germany and bought all those handmade, beautiful works of German art glass marbles. And I mean, these marbles are intense. They have lattice work in them. They have colors where it's designed to make an incredible piece of art. They were very proud in their work. And it has the pontils on it, which that means you can tell it was handmade. Today, they can melt the pontil back. You don't see it as much. Back then, it was more obvious. Well, that he brought home suitcases of this. Jeremy, tell our audience about that. I found that a fascinating story.
Okay, absolutely. It was me and my father. We were driving across country from Pennsylvania, and we were on the way back home. We were hitting all these antique stores, and every time we stopped at an antique store, I would go in and I'd look for marbles. Well, I would find a few marbles here and there, but not near as many as I thought I would find traveling throughout the United States. And we got all the way back into Nebraska. There it is. And we were all the way in Nebraska, where we're literally in the middle of nowhere. It was open fields, open highway. And I turned to my dad and I said, Dad, I said, can you believe we traveled all this way and I've hardly got to see as near as many marbles as I thought I was going to see? And as soon as I said that, there were a little sign appeared alongside the highway that said Marble Museum. And I turned to my dad and I said, Dad, did that sign just say Marble Museum? And he said, it did. And I said, do you think they're talking about toy marbles? Because I think they are. So I said, no, that can't be. I said, well, let's turn off on the next exit and see what we can find. So we turned off on the exit, went about a half a mile down the road, and sure enough, there was this little building that said Marble Museum, and it said open. We stopped, we went in, and it was more marbles than I'd ever seen in my entire life. This gentleman, his name is Lee, and it's Lee's Marbles in Nebraska, York, Nebraska, and he has a marble museum. This gentleman has collected over 1 million marbles in his lifetime. I mean, wall-to-wall coverage of marbles as far as the eye can see. And what's so fascinating is not only my experience of not seeing these marbles for that long in the trip, and then all of a sudden saying what I said, and having this marble museum appear out of nowhere in the middle of Nebraska. But then Lee began to tell us the story of how his collection began. And he collected back in the day when marbles were worth hardly nothing. And he would take trips to Germany. And along the Rhine River, there would be flea markets. And along these flea markets, there would be dozens and dozens of handmade, beautiful marbles. Well, he found them so fascinating. So what he would do is he would buy suitcases, fill the suitcases with these German marbles, and have them shipped back to the United States when he would travel back. And he would take several trips because of business back to Germany in that area. And over time, he would have suitcases and suitcases of these marbles. Now, he collected for the pure love, because at that time, there was a few other collectors that I'm sure that he might have known about here or there, but it was nothing like it is today. And then he ended up with hundreds, if not thousands, of these beautiful, beautiful examples that were made in Germany.
I just think it's a fascinating story, and Jeremy's traveling all around, everywhere, meeting with people, collecting these stories, and giving some history and insight. It's fascinating, and a documentary on marbles really should have been done before now. And that's why I think this is important, just for history's sake. If nothing else, this is just so long overdue on it. And, one thing I was telling Jeremy is like, wow, people today are called marble investors because the price always goes up. And it's an investment. And a lot of times there are people that are not marble dealers, but antique dealers that don't care to look up the price of marbles or don't see the worth, and they're passing along a $500 or $1,000 marble for $2. They just not really looking at it. You'll find some incredible finds out there if you go out looking, and then you're an investor. You bought for $2 and you can sell at $1,000, and you don't have to have money or be made of money to buy it. It's something that's affordable, and it doesn't take up a lot of space in your house because it's miniature, glass art. And I look at some of the pieces from when they first started with the machinery ones. The type of glass they use was, in my opinion, like Waterford crystal to me anyway. It was a heavyweight. It was like a wet diamond. The clarity was incredible. They made some marbles like vitro where it would be what they call it a cap top, but a victory marble, but it would be mostly all transparent, see-through, pure crystal glass with a hint of color artistically placed, and the quality. Listen, you're just going to have to look it up and see for yourself, and it will either do something, for you, or maybe not. But for most people, it's wonderful. And of course, there's still the game of it. I see that there's a lot of people out there bringing game boards where they have a table up on stilts, and they have a large area surface, and they're bringing it to nursing homes Sunday school classes, trying to get people interested, in marbles. Now, another thing from your film, Jeremy, is that it's a careful documentary. Why don't you go ahead and share with our viewers and listeners today about more of this documentary? What else are you going to be putting in there?
100%. Yeah. So a lot of the documentary is going to be, my travels and who I'm meeting and why I'm meeting them, and then the information and the stories that they're sharing back with me. The history is a given. The history is amazing. When people learn about the history of marbles, that in itself is a whole world that you can dive into. But then the people that you meet along the journey are so fascinating, and that's where really the fun really begins, because you get to see these people and meet them in real life. You get to conversate with them. You get to see why they collected and their collections. The documentary will have obviously amazing collections of marbles that are one of a kind that most people have never seen, and they'll probably never see unless you do something like this, because a lot of these people don't get out. They don't share their collections on a really wide basis like you would find other collections on the internet. So this documentary is going to be showing those collections, it's going to be showing these marbles, it's going to be talking about why they were made, how they were made, where they came from, and all of that's incredibly fascinating. One thing about the documentary that I love, that I really want to share and bring out the most, are the stories. So every time I've talked with somebody, every time I've traveled and had a conversation with someone, each person has brought out an incredible story, either their own or a story that they've heard from somebody else from the past, that is so unique and is so interesting and so fascinating that for me as a storyteller, as they tell these stories, I don't have to do anything but hit record and listen. And I'm automatically entertained, automatically dialed in, and just awaiting for them to complete their story, because it's so a beautiful thing. And each person has a story to tell about marbles in that way, which I think is so unique in this hobby and in this toy versus any other hobby or any other toy, because it goes back generations. And that's what's so cool about marbles too. It's not just one age group. You can literally find marbles that have delighted and brightened up the eyes of a child that's 5 years old. And you can literally take that same marble and put it in the hands of a 99-year-old, and his eyes will light up the exact same way. And those elements, in my opinion, are magical. And I'm hoping to bring out those types of elements in this movie.
I tell you, there is an attraction to it. It's well, for me anyway, I'm a girly girl. It's sparkly, it's glittery, it's shiny, and I love the mica marbles, that have the glitter from even way, way back in the day, in the 1800s. They still look brand new today. And and I have a propensity to try and find some pink, on there, being a girly girl, which is harder to find in marbles. But I look at one of these and go, ooh, pretty, that's so gorgeous.
Yeah.
And I think it does, evoke a happiness, a natural joy, a goodness, I think it's just a lovely gift. I think that God gives some good gifts, and this is one of them. It's something to make you joyous and make your eyes light up, and it's fun to collect and study. And boy, the study you can do on them, because, like I said, the IDing is somewhat difficult. You can be studying it for a few years and still. And the fact on this movie here that Jeremy's doing that. He said that he's going to be showing some marbles that nobody has seen, probably may never see again. The fact that you can see somebody's collection that you never knew existed, or a marble you didn't know exists, that is fascinating to be able to watch that. So listen, people, if you'd like to bring some joy to the world, and a lovely occupation here, some joy, you may want to support Jeremy's film here that he wants to do for the love of marbles. He does have some cuts from it if you want to go to Facebook and look up for the love of marbles. But Jeremy, go ahead and give our people where they can go if they want to support what you're doing.
Okay, 100%. So the best and easiest way to contact myself is through Facebook. I've set up my profile there. I've set up the promo page there for the Marble movie as well. So again, you could go to my name directly, Jeremy Maupin, Jeremy. Last name is Maupin, Maupin. And if you contact me directly through Facebook, I can answer any question and I could direct you anywhere that you might want to go. Through my name, though, also on Facebook, you can find For the Love of Marbles. And that's my page set up directly for this documentary. On there, we're going to have promotional pictures, we're going to have promotional trailers, and also a link that will then contact you to our current fundraiser where we're trying to get enough funds so that we can continue this movie, travel, crew, post-production expenses. So all of that will be listed on Facebook, and all the links will be there as well. So you can either contact me directly through Jeremy Maupin or contact me through my page For the Love of Marbles.
Jeremy, it's been awesome having you with us today, and I hope that some of our viewers, listeners got something from this. I hope that somebody may want to think about supporting this for the history, for the art, or for just bringing people a lot of joy. It's long overdue, people. There needs to be a documentary on this, and I want to thank you for your hard work on this, Jeremy, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Leah. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.